Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this long before the first city, before the first written word, before history even knew its own name, something may have been watching us. Ancient people across the world spoke of visitors from the sky, beings who arrived suddenly, changed everything, and disappeared. Were they gods, myths, or witnesses to something far older than humanity itself? Tonight, we are not chasing fantasy. We are following history, science, and human memory to ask one dangerous question: have aliens been visiting Earth for millions of years? And if so, why was the truth buried in stone, story, and silence? Stay with me, because once you see the evidence, the sky will never look the same again. We'll explain everything in this video, step by step. Don't skip it. For as long as human beings have lifted their eyes to the night sky, we have asked the same quiet question: are we alone? It is an ancient question, older than science, older than history itself. Long before telescopes and satellites, before equations and radio signals, humans looked at the stars and felt something stir inside them, a mixture of wonder, fear, and longing. The sky was not empty to our ancestors. It was alive with meaning. Across the ruins of vanished civilizations, etched into stone and carried through myth, we find stories that refuse to fade. Stories of beings who came from the heavens, teachers, watchers, gods, messengers. To modern ears, these tales may sound symbolic, poetic, or naive, yet they appear again and again among cultures that never met, separated by oceans and millennia. The question is not whether these stories exist. The question is why. In ancient Sumer, some of the earliest written texts describe the Anunnaki, being said to have descended from the sky to shape civilization. In Egypt, gods did not merely inspire kings, they ruled alongside them, descending from the stars, departing again beyond the sky. In Mesoamerica, the Maya and the Aztecs spoke of feathered serpents who arrived from the heavens bearing knowledge of time, agriculture, and order. In India's ancient epics, flying machines, vimanas, move across the sky with precision and power. Indigenous cultures across Australia, Africa, and the Americas tell of sky people who shaped the world and then withdrew. Historians caution us to read these accounts carefully. Myth is not history in the modern sense, but myth is never meaningless. It reflects how people understood their world and what they feared, hoped for, and revered. When similar themes arise independently across continents, historians are obligated to pause, not to leap to conclusions, but to ask deeper questions. Were these simply stories? Or were they attempts by early humans to describe experiences beyond their understanding? As civilization advanced, the heavens remained central to human life. Ancient structures across the globe aligned with astonishing precision to celestial events. Stonehenge tracks the solstice. The Great Pyramid aligns with cardinal directions more accurately than many modern buildings. At sites like Göbekli Tepe, older than agriculture itself, we find massive stone pillars carved with symbols that suggest cosmic awareness long before written history. Archaeology explains much of this through human ingenuity, patience, and accumulated knowledge. And yet, even archaeologists admit there are moments of discomfort, moments when the sophistication seems to arrive suddenly, without a clear evolutionary trail. Human progress is rarely smooth. It leaps, it stalls, it explodes forward. That pattern alone invites speculation, not certainty, but curiosity. In the modern era, science replaced myth as our primary lens for understanding the universe. And science, rather than closing the door on the question of extraterrestrial life, quietly opened it wider than ever before. We now know there are hundreds of billions of galaxies, each containing hundreds of billions of stars. We have discovered thousands of exoplanets, many in zones where life could exist. Organic molecules, once thought rare, are common in space. Water, the essential ingredient of life as we know it, exists across the cosmos. Statistically, life elsewhere is not unlikely. It is probable. But probability does not equal proof, and this is where the story becomes delicate. Throughout the 20th century, reports of unidentified flying objects, now called unidentified anomalous phenomena, entered public consciousness. Some were hoaxes, some were misidentified aircraft, weather balloons, or atmospheric effects. Others remain unexplained, even after serious investigation. Governments, once dismissive, have acknowledged gaps in understanding, not evidence of visitors, but evidence of unanswered questions. Science demands restraint. It teaches us to separate what we know from what we suspect and what we imagine. There is no verified proof that extraterrestrial beings have visited Earth, let alone for millions of years. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that standard has not been met. And yet, history reminds us that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. What makes this question endure is not conspiracy or spectacle, but something quieter and more human. It is the realization that humanity may not be the center of the story. For most of history, we believed the universe revolved around us. Then we learned Earth was not the center of the solar system. Then that the solar system was not the center of the galaxy. Each revelation humbled us. If one day we learn that life elsewhere exists, or once visited, it would not diminish humanity. It would place us within a larger narrative, one that stretches beyond our planet and our time. The deeper truth may be this: whether aliens have visited Earth is less revealing than why we keep asking. We ask because we sense that we are part of something vast, because we carry memory and myth, curiosity and science, and hope in the stars. We ask because human history is a record not only of survival, but of reaching beyond the known, beyond the horizon, beyond ourselves. The night sky has not changed much since the first humans stood beneath it. The same stars shine back at us, silent and patient. In the earliest chapters of human memory, before history learned to write itself down with precision, people told stories to explain the unexplainable. These stories were not casual inventions. They were carried across generations with reverence, guarded by priests, elders, and kings, etched into stone and sealed into ritual. What is striking and deeply unsettling to the modern mind is how similar these stories are, even when they emerge from cultures separated by oceans, deserts, and tens of thousands of years. In ancient Sumer, the first civilization to leave us written records, clay tablets speak of the Anunnaki, beings who descended from the heavens and took part in the ordering of the world. They were not ghosts or abstractions. They were described as physical, authoritative, capable of creation and destruction, involved directly in human affairs. These were not distant gods who merely listened to prayers. They arrived, they ruled, they left. To the Sumerians, the sky was not symbolic. It was a place of origin, far to the west along the Nile. Egyptian civilization rose with a confidence that still astonishes us. The gods of Egypt were not imagined as living in some vague spiritual realm. They came from the sky, returned to the sky, and left behind bloodlines that ruled on earth. Pharaohs were not metaphorically divine. They were believed to be the literal descendants of celestial beings. Texts describe gods ascending in fiery boats, traveling through the heavens, joining the imperishable stars. The pyramids themselves were not merely tombs, but instruments of ascension, aligned with celestial pathways, built to ensure the ruler's return to the sky from which his divine ancestors came. Across the ocean, in the ancient Americas, civilizations developed without contact with the old world. Yet their stories echo the same themes. The Maya spoke of gods who descended from the heavens and gave them knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and time itself. Their calendar tracked celestial cycles with astonishing accuracy. Their gods were teachers who arrived suddenly, reshaped society, and departed with promises of return. Among the Aztecs, Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, came from the sky, brought law and learning, and left across the sea, vowing one day to come back. In the Andes, the Inca told of Viracocha, a being who emerged after a great flood, described as tall, ruddy, ant, and powerful, who taught humanity how to live, then walked westward across the ocean and vanished. Indigenous peoples of North America spoke of star people, visitors who descended from the heavens, guided tribes, healed the sick, and returned to the sky. Australian Aboriginal traditions describe the dream time, when sky beings came down and shaped the land, created life, and established laws that still govern their culture today. These accounts were not fringe beliefs within their societies. They were central truths woven into law, identity, and survival. They shaped architecture, agriculture, and governance. Entire civilizations oriented their lives around the sky, not simply because it was beautiful, but because it was believed to be inhabited by intelligences greater than themselves. Skeptics argue, with reason, that these stories reflect humanity's attempt to explain natural forces. Thunder became a god's anger. The sun became a chariot. The stars became ancestors. But this explanation, while comforting, does not fully account for the remarkable consistency in the details. Why do so many cultures describe beings who descend, instruct, rule, and then leave? Why do they so often associate these beings with light, flight, and knowledge beyond the human norm? Why do the gods arrive suddenly in human history rather than evolving gradually like folklore tends to do? Anthropologists note that myth often preserves memory, not in literal terms, but in symbolic language aped by the limits of understanding. A technologically advanced presence, if encountered by early humans, would almost certainly be described as divine. Fire from the sky, voices without bodies, objects that moved against the wind, knowledge that arrived without visible origin would have been framed in the only language available, the language of gods. This does not mean these stories are proof of extraterrestrial visitation. History demands discipline. It demands evidence that can be tested, verified, repeated. Stone tablets and oral traditions cannot tell us what literally happened in the way a modern instrument can. But history also warns us against arrogance. It reminds us that ancient people were not ignorant, merely limited by their tools. They observed carefully. They remembered collectively. They built narratives that preserve what mattered most. What is undeniable is that these cultures believed with absolute conviction that they were not alone, that intelligence existed beyond Earth, that the sky was not empty. They did not see themselves as the center of creation, but as part of a larger order governed by forces that arrived from above. This belief shaped how they understood life and death, power and humility, responsibility and destiny. The modern world often assumes that ancient myths dissolve under scientific scrutiny. Yet science itself has begun to echo some of their intuitions. We now know that the universe is not sparse but crowded, that life's building blocks are common, that Earth is not unique in its potential to host intelligence. When ancient people looked up and sensed presence, they were wrong in many details, but perhaps not in instinct. The question then is not whether we should take these stories literally, but whether we should take them seriously. History is not only the record of what happened, it is the record of what humans believed was happening. And when nearly every early civilization tells some version of the same story, that beings came from the sky, shaped humanity, and departed, it forces us to confront the possibility that these myths are pointing towards something real, something experienced, something remembered imperfectly but persistently, carried forward through time like an echo that refuses to fade, whispering of encounters that humanity has never fully explained, only retold, reshaped, and passed down as sacred truth from one generation to the next, watching the sky not with fear alone, but with recognition, as if somewhere beyond the stars there remained a connection that had once been closer, clearer, and profoundly transformative. Long before humanity learned to measure the heavens with instruments and equations, people marked the sky with stone, earth, and intention. They raised monuments not at random, but with purpose, aligning their most sacred spaces with the movements of the sun, the moon, and the stars. This was not casual sky watching. It was devotion expressed in architecture, belai, F, turned into geometry. Across continents and millennia, humanity built as if the heavens were watching back. On the plains of southern England, Stonehenge rises in silent precision. Its massive stones are positioned to capture the rising sun on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. This alignment was not accidental. It required generations of observation, planning, and labor. The people who built it did not leave written explanations, but the structure itself speaks clearly. The sun mattered, the sky mattered. Time, marked by celestial rhythm, governed human life. Far to the south in Egypt, the relationship between earth and sky reached monumental scale. The Great Pyramid at Giza is aligned with the cardinal directions to a degree of accuracy that still challenges modern engineering. Narrow shafts within the pyramid point towards specific stars as they appeared thousands of years ago. To the ancient Egyptians, these stars were not distant lights, they were destinations. The soul of the Pharaoh was believed to ascend and join the imperishable stars, returning to the realm of the gods who had once come down to earth. Across the ancient world, similar patterns emerge. In Mesopotamia, ziggurats were built as stairways between heaven and earth. Their towering steps were not defensive structures, but sacred bridges, places where gods were believed to descend. In Central America, the Maya constructed cities that functioned as cosmic calendars. At Chichen Itza, the plural of Kukulkan creates the illusion of a serpent descending its staircase during the equinoxes, a spectacle that fuses architecture, astronomy, and mythology into a single living moment. In Peru, the Inca shaped stone with extraordinary precision, fitting massive blocks together so tightly that even a blade cannot pass between them. Sites like Machu Picchu align with solstices and mountain peaks, turning the landscape itself into a celestial instrument. The Inca believed the sun was their ancestor, and their cities were designed to honor its movement, its power, its watchful presence. Even older sites deepen the mystery. Göbekli Tepe, buried for thousands of years in what is now Turkey, predates agriculture, pottery, and writing. Yet it contains massive stone pillars carved with animals and symbols, arranged in circular enclosures that suggest ritual and cosmic significance. The people who built it were hunter-gatherers according to conventional timelines, yet they organized labor on a scale once thought impossible for such societies. They did not build homes first, they built temples oriented toward something beyond survival. Skeptics rightly point out that humans have always depended on the sky. The sun determined seasons, crops, migration, and survival. To watch the heavens was to live, but this practical explanation does not fully account for the emotional intensity embedded in these structures. These were not simple observatories, they were sacred spaces, places where the boundary between earth and sky seemed thinner, where rituals were performed to communicate, honor, or appease forces believed to dwell above. Reinforce what stone suggests. Across cultures, the sky is not empty. It is inhabited. It is the home of gods, ancestors, watchers, and teachers. These beings do not remain distant. They descend, they intervene, they establish order, then withdraw. Architecture becomes the memory of that relationship, a way of holding on to contact after presence has faded. The question arises naturally, quietly, without accusation or certainty. Why did ancient people feel compelled to build upward, to align so precisely, to encode the heavens into their most sacred spaces? Why does this pattern appear independently across civilizations that never shared knowledge? Coincidence explains some of it, necessity explains more, but meaning explains the rest. Modern science has shown that the universe is governed by laws, not caprice. Yet it has also revealed a cosmos more vast and alive than any ancient myth imagined. Stars are born and die. Galaxies collide. Planets form in abundance. The sky is not static, it is dynamic, creative, unfolding. When ancient people watched it with awe, they were responding to something real, even if they interpreted it through myth. It is tempting to dismiss these monuments as relics of superstition, but doing so risks misunderstanding the depth of human perception. These builders were not ignorant. They were servers, recorders, meaning makers. They tracked cycles over centuries. They remembered alignments across generations. They encoded knowledge in stone because stone outlives memory. Whether or not the heavens ever held visitors who came to earth, what is undeniable is that humanity behaved as if the sky was inhabited, attentive, significant. Our ancestors did not build toward emptiness. They built toward presence, toward connection, toward something they believed had shaped them and still mattered. The monuments remain, enduring long after the names of their builders have faded, pointing upward, marking moments when light returns, shadows fall, and the heavens align once more with earth, reminding each generation that the story of humanity has always been written not only on the ground beneath our feet, but in the vast, silent sky above us, waiting to be read by those willing to look up and wonder human history does not unfold as a smooth, predictable line. It moves in fits and starts, with long periods of slow change interrupted by moments of astonishing acceleration. Tools appear suddenly more refined. Societies organize faster than expected. Knowledge emerges that seems disproportionate to what came before. These leaps have long unsettled historians, not because they defy explanation entirely, but because they resist simple ones. For hundreds of thousands of years, early humans lived as hunter-gatherers, adapting gradually to their environments. Stone tools improved incrementally. Social structures remained small and flexible. Then, in what amounts to a geological blink of an eye, humanity began to build cities, cultivate crops, domesticate animals, and map the heavens. Writing appeared. Mathematics followed. Law, architecture, and organized religion emerged almost simultaneously across different regions of the world. In Mesopotamia, agriculture, urban planning, and written language arose within a few centuries of each other. In Egypt, monumental stone construction appeared already refined, with little evidence of experimental failure. In the Indus Valley, cities were laid out in precise grids with standardized bricks and advanced sanitation. In China, complex metallurgy and centralized governance developed rapidly. These were not isolated inventions slowly diffusing outward. They were parallel awakenings. Conventional history explains these developments through population growth, climate stability after the last ice age, and cumulative knowledge passed down through generations. These explanations are reasonable and supported by evidence, but they leave gaps. Gaps where progress appears compressed, where trial and error seems strangely absent, where results arrive without visible rehearsal. Take stoneworking. In multiple ancient cultures, massive stones were cut, transported, and fitted together with precision that still challenges modern machinery. At sites like Baalbek, blocks weighing hundreds of tons were moved and placed with accuracy that defies easy explanation. In Egypt, granite, harder than iron, was shaped with smoothness that suggests techniques not fully understood. In Peru, polygonal masonry interlocks so perfectly that earthquakes have failed to dislodge it for centuries. Historians do not claim these feats were impossible. Human ingenuity is formidable, but they acknowledge uncertainty about the exact methods used. The tools found do not always account for the results achieved. Experimental archaeology offers theories, not definitive answers. The question lingers not as an accusation, but as an invitation to humility. Knowledge, too, seems to surge unexpectedly. Ancient cultures demonstrated sophisticated understanding of astronomy long before modern optics. They tracked planetary cycles, predicted eclipses, and aligned structures with celestial events with astonishing accuracy. The Maya calculated the solar year more precisely than European astronomers would centuries later. The ancient Indians described planetary motions in poetic mathematical language. These insights appear early, fully formed, then sometimes vanish, only to be rediscovered later. The pattern repeats: emergence, mastery, loss, rediscovery. Human history is less a straight climb than a series of peaks and valleys. Entire bodies of knowledge disappear with the collapse of civilizations. Libraries burn, oral traditions fracture. What survives feels miraculous. What is lost is immeasurable. This is where speculation quietly ente RS, not as certainty, but as possibility. Some ask whether these leaps could reflect outside influence, not intervention in a dramatic sense, but contact, observation, or guidance that nudge humanity forward at key moments. The idea is controversial, and for good reason. It risks underestimating human capability. It tempts myth to masquerade as evidence. Yet history itself warns against assuming isolation. Human progress has always accelerated through contact. Trade spreads ideas faster than invention alone. Encounters between cultures spark innovation. Even limited exposure to advanced knowledge can reshape societies. If contact between humans produces such effects, it is not irrational to wonder, without asserting, that contact beyond humanity, if it ever occurred, could leave subtle fingerprints rather than clear signatures. Importantly, no artifact has conclusively proven such contact. There is no alien tool in a museum, no verified technology out of place in time. The archaeological record remains stubbornly human. And yet, the unanswered questions persist, not because they demand belief, but because they resist closure. There is another explanation, quieter and perhaps more unsettling. Human potential may be far greater than we assume, and ancient societies may have reached heights we have forgotten. Knowledge can rise and fall. Techniques can be perfected and then lost. Progress is not guaranteed to be permanent. The modern world, for all its confidence, is not immune to forgetting. When we encounter ancient achievements that feel ahead of their time, we are confronted not with aliens, but with our own fragility. We are reminded that intelligence does not move in a straight line, that civilization is delicate, that brilliance can emerge and vanish without leaving instructions behind. Still, the mystery remains compelling because it touches something deeply human. We want to know how we came to be who we are. We want our story to make sense. Sudden leaps challenge the comfort of gradualism. They suggest moments of awakening, whether sparked by environment, inspiration, necessity, or encounter. In asking whether something more was involved, we are not seeking to escape responsibility for our achievements. We are seeking continuity. We are trying to understand whether the story of humanity is entirely self-contained or whether it is always unfolded within a larger context, shaped by forces seen and unseen, remembered imperfectly through myth and stone, whispered across generations as the sense that something once happened. something transformative, something that accelerated the human journey in ways we still struggle to fully explain. Standing before ancient walls and artifacts not in disbelief, but in quiet recognition that the past may be more complex, more dynamic, and more mysterious than our timelines. Comfortably allow modern science entered this ancient question, not with prophecy or poetry, but with caution. It arrived carrying instruments, equations, and a disciplined skepticism shaped by centuries of hard lessons. And when science finally turned its gaze outward, beyond Earth, beyond the familiar, it did something unexpected. It did not dismiss the possibility of life elsewhere. It confirmed that the universe is fertile with opportunity. In the early 20th century, astronomy still imagined planets as rare and exceptional. Today, that view has collapsed. Thousands of exoplanets have been discovered orbiting distant stars, many of them rocky, many of them with inhabitable zones where liquid water could exist. Some are older than Earth by billions of years. Some orbit stars far more stable than our sun. The raw materials of life, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, are not scarce. They are abundant, scattered across nebulae, embedded in meteorites, drifting through interstellar space. Biology, too, has widened the horizon. Life on Earth thrives in places once thought impossible: deep ocean vents without sunlight, acidic lakes, radioactive environments, frozen tundra. These extremophiles have reshaped our understanding of what life requires. If life can emerge and endure under such conditions here, it may arise elsewhere under circumstances very different from our own. From a scientific perspective, life beyond Earth is no longer speculative fantasy. It is a reasonable expectation, yet expectation is not evidence of visitation. This distinction defines the modern scientific position. The universe may be full of life, but the leap from existence to contact is enormous. Interstellar distances are vast beyond intuitive comprehension. Even traveling at a fraction of the speed of light, journeys between stars would take years, decades, centuries. Physics allows such travel in theory, but theory does not guarantee practice. Energy requirements are staggering. Hazards are immense. No known technology demonstrates routine interstellar travel. Because of this, science proceeds carefully. It searches for signals rather than visitors. Radio telescopes listen for patterns that nature alone is unlikely to produce. Spectroscopes analyze the atmospheres of distant worlds for chemical imbalances that might indicate biological processes. Space probes examine Mars, Europa, Enceladus, places within our own solar system where life might exist or once existed. This is not a search for ancient gods, but for microbes, fossils, traces. So far, the results are tantalizing but inconclusive. No confirmed signal has arrived from the stars. No alien organism has been found. Mars has offered hints of past water, not life. The silence is profound enough to earn its own name, the Fermi paradox. If the universe is so vast and life so likely, why do we see no clear evidence of advanced civilizations? This silence fuels imagination, but science resists filling it with certainty. It offers many possible explanations. Civilizations may be rare. They may destroy themselves before achieving interstellar reality. They may communicate in ways we do not yet understand. They may choose not to broadcast at all. Or they may exist on timescales that do not overlap with ours, rising and falling across cosmic eras. When claims arise that extraterrestrials have visited Earth in the distant past, science applies the same standard it uses everywhere else. Where is the evidence that cannot be explained by human activity or natural processes? Where is the artifact that does not belong to its time? Where is the data that survives scrutiny, replication, and independent verification? To date, no such evidence has been accepted. Ancient monuments, however impressive, can be explained through human labor and ingenuity. Myths, however evocative, cannot be tested. Unidentified aerial phenomena, however intriguing, remain unidentified, not identified as extraterrestrial. Governments acknowledging uncertainty is not the same as confirming alien presence. Mystery is not proof. This restraint frustrates some and reassures others. It feels unsatisfying to those who sense that something more lies beneath the surface. But restraint is the reason science works at all. It is designed not to confirm what we wish were true, but to survive what is false. At the same time, science does not ridicule the question. It does not close the door. It leaves it deliberately ajar. The history of science is a history of humility learned the hard way. Earth was not the center of the cosmos. The sun was not unique. Our gay Laxey was not alone. Each time certainty gave way to discovery, the universe grew larger and humanity smaller, yet somehow more significant. The modern scientific worldview accepts uncertainty as a feature, not a flaw. It acknowledges that knowledge is provisional, always subject to revision by better evidence. What is rejected today may be reconsidered tomorrow if new data demands it. This is not weakness. It is discipline. There is also a deeper tension at work. The question of ancient visitation sits at the boundary between evidence and meaning. Science can tell us what is measurable. It struggles with what is remembered, symbolic, or existential. Human beings do not live by data alone. We live by stories, by shared memory, by a sense of origin and destiny. Science does not confirm that aliens visited Earth millions of years ago. But it also does not assert that humanity is cosmically insignificant. On the contrary, it places us within a universe capable of producing complexity, intelligence, and consciousness. It suggests that if life arose here, it may arise elsewhere. It suggests that the story of intelligence may be larger than Earth, even if contact has not occurred. This balance between openness and rigor is the modern inheritance. It allows wonder without surrendering to illusion. It permits curiosity without abandoning responsibility. It reminds us that not knowing is not failure. It is the starting point of every honest inquiry. The ancient sky that once read gods now inspires equations, but the emotional response has not changed. We still look up and ask whether we are alone. We still feel the weight of silence and possibility. Science has given us sharper tools, but it has not taken away the mystery. It has refined it, disciplined it, and placed it within a framework that values truth over comfort, patience over proclamation, and humility over certainty, standing at the edge of knowledge, aware that the universe is vast enough to surprise us, old enough to have hosted countless stories, and quiet enough to remind us that some answers, if they exist, have not yet chosen to speak. The question endures not because it has been answered, but because it speaks to something elemental within us. Long before telescopes or theories, before science gave us language for probability and distance, human beings felt small beneath the sky. That feeling has never left us. Whether we call it awe, fear, humility, or hope, it is the same emotion that has driven every generation to look upward and wonder if the darkness beyond the stars is empty or alive. When ancient people spoke of visitors from the heavens, they were not merely describing events. They were expressing a worldview in which humanity was not alone, not central, not supreme. The universe, in their telling, was inhabited by forces greater than themselves. This belief shaped morality, authority, and identity. It reminded humans that they were part of a larger order, accountable to something beyond their own power. In the modern world, we like to believe we have outgrown such thinking. We pride ourselves on independence, on mastery, on control. And yet, the question of extraterrestrial life continues to unsettle us, not because it threatens our science, but because it threatens our self-image. To discover that intelligence exists elsewhere or once touched our world would force us to redefine what it means to be human. This is why the idea provokes both fascination and resistance. On one hand, we hunger for confirmation that we are part of something vast and meaningful. On the other, we fear losing our uniqueness, our narrative of exceptionalism. The tension between these impulses has shaped human history just as much as wars and inventions. Throughout time, moments of humility have often preceded growth. When humanity learned that Earth was not the center of the universe, it was not diminished, it was liberated. Knowledge expanded, perspective widened. The same may be true of any future discovery regarding life beyond Earth. Meaning does not shrink when the universe grows larger, it deepens. Even without evidence of ancient visitation, the persistence of the question reveals something profound. Human beings are meaning-seeking creatures. We do not simply ask what happened, we ask why. We want our origins to connect to purpose. We want our story to fit within a grander narrative. The idea that intelligence might exist beyond Earth offers a sense of belonging in a universe that can otherwise feel indifferent. History shows that societies often turn to the sky during times of uncertainty. When the ground beneath us feels unstable, we look upward for answers. The gods of the past, the aliens of the present, and the explorers of the future all occupy the same psychological space. They represent the unknown made personal, the hope that there is order beyond chaos, intelligence beyond randomness. At its core, the question of extraterrestrial visitation is not about aliens, it is about us. It asks whether humanity is mature enough to accept its place in a universe that does not revolve around it. It asks whether we can hold wonder without surrendering reason and curiosity without abandoning humility. There is also a moral dimension often overlooked. If humanity is not alone in the universe, then our actions matter beyond our planet. How we treat our world, our species, and each other becomes part of a larger story. We are not merely a closed system. We are a chapter in a cosmic narrative still being written. Even the silence of the universe carries meaning. It teaches patience. It reminds us that intelligence may be rare, fragile, or cautious. It suggests that survival, not dominance, may be the true measure of advancement. In this sense, the absence of contact may be as instructive as its presence. The enduring power of this question lies in its ability to humble without humiliating, to inspire without deceiving. It invites us to think beyond tribal boundaries, beyond national myths, beyond short lifespans. It encourages a long view of history, one that stretches backward into deep time and forward into uncertain futures. Whether or not extraterrestrial beings have ever visited Earth, humanity has always lived as if the universe were watching. Our laws, our art, our science, and our stories all reflect a desire to be seen, to be understood, to matter. The sky has served as mirror and mystery, reflecting our fears and aspirations back at us in starlight. Perhaps the greatest value of the question is not the answer it promises, but the posture it demands. It asks us to listen more than declare, to observe more than assume, to accept uncertainty without panic. It calls us to balance imagination with responsibility, faith with evidence, hope with discipline, in asking whether aliens have been visiting Earth for millions of years. We are really asking whether humanity is willing to see itself honestly, not as the final achievement of creation, but as one expression of a universe capable of producing thought, memory, and wonder. We are asking whether we can carry the weight of humility that comes with such knowledge, whether we can remain curious without becoming careless, and whether we can face the vastness of existence not with fear, but with gratitude for the brief, luminous moment in which we get to ask these questions at all, standing on a small planet beneath an ancient sky, aware that our search for meaning may be the most human journey of all. Thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.